Okay, we're going to try this again. Unfortunately for me, I've got a power cord issue and it makes the video, the volume, everything screw up, and I just finally figured it out, so we're going to hope that this time there's no more mishaps. So last week we talked about judgment and how we can use it to better open us up and to come into a fuller expression of who we are as spiritual beings. Today I want to talk to you about rituals. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about rituals is that we're forgetting to add these into our daily life. And I've been thinking a lot about this last week, and I've made some changes, thinking about it and putting it to work. So I wanted to share that with you. So the definition of rituals, is religious or solemn ceremonies consisting of a series of actions performed to a prescribed order. So in other words, things like church services, you come in, they start with a prayer, they continue with a hymn, they might say another prayer, they might build in, so they build up to where the priest, preacher, reverend, whomever is talks, and then there's the offering that comes through and the thanking and the loving attributions of ending the ceremony of church, and you go home feeling very good. And that's so that we can kind of cleanse ourselves, give time for that focus on spiritual learning. So I want you to think about how chanting is also a ritual. Affirmations can be a ritual. Mantras, candle rituals. There's a 1-day ritual, a 3-day, 7-day, 13-day ritual. Our prayers can be ritualistic. Saying the rosary or using the Buddhist beads. I remember when the Buddhists came to Resonant Essentials and they were giving a talk on how come there was 108 beads. He says, well, 3 are just in case you forget where you're at, just to cover you. Which was really pretty humorous if you think about it, because why the number 108? They, person who had asked the question just didn't really understand. Well, there has to be a lot of magical reasons for that. It might be due to numerology, 9 being a very high state of consciousness, and it could be just because, in case you forgot your place, and it gave you 3 to 8 more beads to make sure you covered your base. But what I want to talk to you about is simple. Let's simplify it and say anything that we do over and over to build power or energy. Now, why is this important? Because we get caught up in the negative. So many times we go into struggling with negation, with sickness, illness, disease. We imagine curses. Sometimes we curse ourselves. Dysfunctions, malfunctions, any and all of the negative we can get caught up in, and that's because we live in a 3D world. The 3D thought process is it's got to be hard, it's got to be tough, and rituals help us break through that level of consciousness. We get caught up in negative talk, negative thinking. Nobody likes me, nobody wants me around, I'm no good, my boss doesn't like this, they don't like that. Any and everything that we can do to ourselves, we will actually do in the negative. And that's why it's so much easier for us when we learn by doing something wrong. And it's because that way, if we do something wrong, it sticks in our brain. Well, we don't want to do that again. It's like using butter for your noodles when you're trying to make spaghetti. It's not wrong, but it tastes different. Simple as that. But we get caught up in looking for the explanation of why everything's gone haywire, why everything goes bad. It's also easier if we're in negative, we can bring people down to our level because it's easier. And we could get stuck on their level. We can sink on that level. It's easier to go down than it is to go up. So if you've been listening to Johanna's talk, her astro forecast, or you've been reading Shirley's Taroscopes, you'll notice that there's a pattern of, this is a rough time for you. You need to be a little more cautious. Don't spend so much money. Don't do this. Think about that. It's always an opportunity that you have to present yourself to using the energy that's out there right now to switch it for yourself and make it better. There are people who tell you these things not because they, have a desire to be seen as the great gurus, but it's so that it makes it easier for who they're talking with, for the people they care about. It is an explanation so that we get the best of our world out there for others to see. The world is moving and we are shifting. And so where we put our focus, that's where we're going to shift into. And that's why understanding rituals and maybe implementing them will be a little bit easier for us to make that shift into a more positive world. Now remember, we create our world. So if we're creating our world, then we have to understand that as we create it, we're going to step into it. Do you want it to be negative? Do you want to stay in the 3D consciousness? Do you want to be stuck thinking that you've got to have an angel rescue you, that you can't do anything for yourself? Do you want to think that you're going to be broke and tired and old and decrepit all by yourself? I mean, we can come up with some heavy talk of what we want or don't want to create. But this way, we put the onus back on us. It's our responsibility to build the energy, to build the power that we have so that we can share it outward. So let's look at how rituals are used in a daily routine and what we can do to kind of change it up. We all have our morning rituals. For myself, I get up, I go get my cup of coffee, I go back to bed, I drink my coffee, I let the dogs out, and boy, today the ritual was on because I usually go out with my flashlight and make sure there's no skunks in the yard so that when I let the dogs out, I don't have to have skunk dog back. And this morning, they beat me out the door because there was definitely a skunk in the yard. I'm running around at 3 o'clock in the morning with flashlight screaming at Phoebe, get in, get in, get in. Not part of my ritual, so it kind of set me off my pattern. But normally I go out, I do this, then I can come in, I can relax, they come in, I shut the door, everything is good. We brush our teeth, we get our breakfast. Do we brush our teeth before we eat, or do we have morning mouth before we eat our breakfast and then go brush our teeth? Or do we brush our teeth both times? These are all things that we have acclimated to and created as our routines or rituals. Even at work, we have rituals. The mail comes at a certain time. So if you're somebody who has to deal with the billing, maybe you're waiting for the mail to come in so you can do the billing, so that you can do the write checks, you can do this, you can do that. All of it is done on a routine or ritualistic level, even after work, bedtime, weekends we have our yard work, our social life, our study time, our relaxed time. You know, do you get up, get it going in the morning and do all your work in the morning so that you have the afternoon to attend a class or just hang out and watch a movie? All of us have those rituals that we create. So if you like what you've been creating, then by golly, keep doing it. If you want something different, then change it up a little. Go in and say, okay, this is what we've been experiencing, this is what we're creating. Ways that we can see if our rituals are working is, our doors opening for you? Are you laughing more? Are you around people who are creating things? Are you drawing to you people who you want to have a conversation with? Or are you embracing the negative? Or do you do both? You know, because sometimes we can get stuck in negative. We do need to vent. We do need to release and then go on to more opportunities, more positive conversation. A lot of the reason that I've been working on this is because Rosie has given me the gift of being able to stay home. She let me have a couple of weeks of just intense time, get caught up, kind of focus, but I couldn't. I struggled. I wasn't feeling really well. Things were off with me. And it finally hit me. I wasn't building my power. I wasn't building my energy. I had hit the wall, though. I had between the pandemic and not being able to get grants for resident essentials or the PPP because, golly gee, I didn't pay unemployment taxes because I don't have employees. I have practitioners because I didn't do this. See how we can get caught up in that negative, constant barrage of bad things are happening that we can get too focused on, and it really damages us. So, you know, while I was waiting for the 501c3, I'm like, what, is the government ignoring me? Do I have to reapply? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? All of this had been cumulatively piling on. How do I get advertising out? I have a warm welcome for anybody who wants to come work. How do I get the message of resident essentials out when people are so afraid to even step out? Or they're mad because they have to wear a mask. All of this was just accumulating. So by the time that my son's anniversary came along, I was done. I was fried mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. My niece passed away on Lionsgate 5 days later. Kind of took me by surprise, and I had the opportunity to connect to family members that I hadn't seen or spoken to in quite some time, and really kind of remember where I came from and what was going on. So basically I gave up. I said, that's it. I'm going to drop all of this on my spirit team. Y'all take charge. I'm done. I just need to shut down. I need to hide in my bubble. I just let it go. I didn't care. I don't care. To this moment, I'm happy. I'm free of the pressures of caring. I'm free of the fear of failing. And the reason is because I decided to change it up and do some pattern changing. So instead of doing routine changing, I really changed some patterns. And now I only focus my attention, I only pay attention to where I find me. And that's made a huge difference on a lot of levels. Since I didn't like where I was, I needed to find a new place to go. So all those daily rituals I put to good use. When I brushed my teeth, I got a new toothbrush. I didn't want any more negative brushing. I wanted to make sure that my mouth was being cleaned for positive words to come out. I wanted to empower my mouth. So I imagined a white light where the toothbrush was getting, and it was cleaning my tongue, and that meant that I was breathing in the light, I was exhaling the light, my, oxygen was coming in, was a light. Everything about it became more focused, more intense. When I walked my dogs in the morning, today was really kind of funny, because what I've been doing is trying to pull in the energy in through the top of my head and building it within my body, creating a bubble around me. And then as I kept breathing in and out, the bubble got more and more dense, more energy, more power, and I would push the bubble out in front of me, clearing the path of anything that had gone before so I didn't step in it, and then letting the energy fall behind me, kind of clearing behind where I was, cleaning the neighborhood, if you will. And that was my focus, my intention of doing this. When I did it this morning, there's always kids at the bus stop, bless their hearts, they're never wearing a mask. I'm okay with that because they don't get close. They've learned not to stand on top of each other. But two of them came over and they wanted to pet the dogs. Well, one I have, they can pet because he just ducks, Max. And of course Phoebe kind of growls and she's not nice. So I had to keep the dog away from them. So tomorrow I'm going to have to get him. Sorry guys, they're here to say hi. Maybe tomorrow they'll be a lot nicer on the leash. And if I run into those kids, they won't. I know it's Saturday, so chances are I won't run into them, but there's always Monday. In my meditation, I changed up my meditation. And we're going to talk about these different types of meditation tomorrow at Spirit Circle. Because meditation can have a ritual pattern. I remembered that I always said a mantra. I'm activating my third eye. I'm creating an open receptive condition in my third eye. And I would do this nightly before I went to bed. And I realized I'm creating an active receptive kind of always put me into these wild dreams. So at night I changed it to passive receptive condition. But I would still do these mantras every night. And I would grow and I became more focused on my work, and I became my healing became more collectively better, and I felt more connection to earth. I felt more connection to everything. My third eye was always active. So, I decided to use meditations, different meditations for different results. Setting an intention schedule, okay? So I decided, if I'm going to do this, I'm only going to have phone calls during this hours and that hours. It didn't mean people couldn't call me. It meant that I didn't make that contact except during this time or that time. I don't ever do it while I'm trying to work on the computer because Lord knows I've made a ton of mistakes. Trying to have a conversation with someone on a personal level while I'm trying to do work stuff. You can do breathing as a ritual to clear, breathing out all that particles of frustration and negativity, and breathing in positive, breathing in power, breathing in energy, sustaining life force, healing energy, any of the things that you want to do. But you want to do, if it's a ritual, you want to do it daily. I deliberately focused on making all of my rituals more positive, much more positive than I was previously. So one of the things that came out of this is that when I watch things or I read a book, I'm getting more information out than I normally would. And I got to thinking, I would love for you guys to watch this great docu on Chaco Canyon. It's called The Mystery of Chaco Canyon. It's on Prime, I think, for free. And I remembered that Lance had taken me up there for Mother's Day in 2016 when I just got back from Toronto. And I time slipped. I think I've said this before. I went into Chaco Canyon. I could feel the community alive. And it was bustling with things going on. And I felt the energy there. It was so pure and so powerful. It felt wonderful. And I connected with a medicine man who I have since pretty much figured out is my spirit guide, Raven. And that's the life that we shared, was back in that time. The power was amazing, and it was such an experience to be in that, being here and being there, that I don't even know how to describe it. But watching this documentary, I was like, science wasn't a thing then. There weren't these great telescopes that they could get to, like an observatory, to create the patterns of the skies. Okay, they had the naked eye. They had all this way of tracking the movement of the sun through the different seasons and whatnot. And if science and science equipment that we use now wasn't there then, how did they do that? Okay? They learned it, they shared it, they had connections to the peoples of Mexico that were living down there. The evidence is humongous and very amazing. In 850 AD, there was a massive change. They started building the homes, or not the homes, they started building the buildings differently. They were massive stone buildings. There were 4 to 5 stories high, 700 rooms, dozens of kivas, and they were built along celestial lines. There's an observatory there, and yet these rooms are not rooms for living. They're not, I don't care how small people you are, those rooms are small. So if you ever get a chance to go up there, you'll see what I'm saying, or if you've already been. So they built this, and for all I can tell you is I think they built it for energy and power, and with that energy and power came knowledge. Were they guided by spirit? Yes. Were they also guided by ETs? Maybe. But who cares? The fact is, they built the power that brought change. And we can do this too. We can create the silence and be aware of the silence and own the silence. And we can create the rituals that build the power, and we can create the energy. And then we can open ourselves to receive, which is one of the key aspects of all of this building of power. What good is it to build your energy if you're not open to receive what the energy brings to you? If you think you don't deserve. And that's where last week's talk on judgment really came in. It was about owning that opportunity so that we can come through a more eclectic, more esoteric understanding and not be so harsh on ourselves and not judge ourselves as unworthy or unknowing or whatever. We have all truth inside of us. It's how we create to bring us more truth or bring us more clarity that matters. So, like I said, tomorrow in Spirit Circle, we're going to be talking about meditation and the different forms of meditation to allow that to heal, to allow that to flow, to allow everything, the creative door to open and create the door to universal love, to create an opportunity for spiritual gifts to come in. So if we quit associating ourselves with negative energy and we stop each other from sitting in that, then we're going to build power together. And we're going to build the power of so much more than we ever dreamed possible, because there is no limits. Once you say, I can't, you won't. Once you say, well, maybe I can, you've come to the door. I think I can, you've opened the door. I know I can, you walked through the door. And with that understanding, that positive flow between ourselves and others is gifted, and it's amazing. And we can walk away from it all to break that negative situation. We can walk away from thinking ourselves unworthy by building the ritualistic powers, by using ritual to build our energy, to build what's out there. And it doesn't mean that you can't express negative. It doesn't mean that you can't cry. It doesn't mean that you won't have negative things happen. Sometimes those negative things that we think are happening to us are just a fallout from somebody else's experience. Sometimes it really is our experience. But if we decide that we want to sit in pain, if we decide we want to sit and worry, if we decide, then we will create that too. But do you want to? So start using those things so you don't hold on to the negative. Use the power of positive. We've got our Halloween review coming. That's where we go back into spirit. We check in with the Akashic Records. We have the ability to see where we're at in balancing our karmic debts and what we need to do to create a more progressive, creative stance, a happier life, more powerful. So these are the things that the review will bring to us as a better, more spiritual us. And instead of owning the negative, to learn our lessons, what if we built the ritual of energy and power to bring us truth commensurate with our level of progression so that we can learn more and be more. Just something to think about. I hope you enjoy your day. You are amazing people, and I am blessed to have you in my life. Bye for now.